Who are the most dangerous hackers? Think about it. In the history of cybercrime, we had many talented individuals, such as Kevin Mitnick, for example, who single-handedly breached companies like Motorola, Nokia, or IBM. But the real power comes from teamwork, doesn't it? Let's look at hacking groups then. R-Evil, Logbit, or maybe the infamous shadow brokers who managed to hack the NSA itself and got away with it. Now, it's still not it. Who has almost unlimited funding, operates on a massive scale, and faces little to no charges for their committed crimes? Governments. And that brings us to the main topic of today's video, the insane cyber attacks done by North Korea. I'm not gonna hold you any longer, let's jump into the first story, which is Sony Pictures hack. On November 24, 2014, a hacker group identifying as Guardians of Peace leaked a release of confidential data from film studio Sony Pictures Entertainment. The data included personal information about Sony Pictures employees and their families, emails between employees, information about executive salaries at the company, copies of then unreleased Sony films, and other information. The attack took place shortly before planned release of a film criticizing Kim Jong-un's regime. It's no surprise that North Korea was the first one to blame. The film itself was passed on by other studios because of it being too controversial. Sony was the only one who gave a green light and helped develop the project. On the day of the attack, Sony employees showed up to work as usual, only to see an image of a red skeleton on their PCs with a caption, "Hacked by GOP." Attackers claim that they already warned Sony about the possible attack. And they are right. Couple days earlier, SP executives received an email from a group called God's Apostles, threatening to destroy Sony Pictures if they won't be paid. The email was either ignored or never reached the destination. If you think about thousands of emails Sony gets every day, it's easy for secretary to miss it. On December 8, 2014, GOP dumped even more information, with additional terrorist threats relating 9/11 attacks. It's not a big discovery that the word terrorist is a trigger for US intelligence agencies, and Sony case quickly became a matter of national security. Shortly after that, North Korea was officially identified as a perpetrator. But it gets even crazier than that. The entire country of North Korea completely lost access to the internet for a few days in early 2015. There are only few superpowers who are capable of such operation, and I think you already know who am I talking about. Still not the end. US intelligence not only managed to identify and sort of punish North Korea, they also identified one of the GOP members. US prosecutors issued an indictment against Park Jin-hyuk, which basically makes him stuck in North Korea and maybe few LA countries. Park was also behind well-known WannaCry, Operation Blockbuster, and the Bangladesh bank heist, which we are gonna talk about next. Following a series of nuclear weapon tests, the United States imposed sanctions on North Korea, which sent the country's economy into a tailspin. Faced with limited options, North Korean government turned to a new source of income: cybercrime. The Bangladesh bank operation was supposed to be a big one. North Korean regime was determined to steal a staggering $1 billion, a sum that had never been attempted before. To carry out their ambitious plan, attackers infected bank systems with Swift client malware. The Swift system is a global messaging network employed by banks for the fast and secure exchange of financial information, including money transfer instructions. The malware provided attackers with unauthorized access to bank Swift credentials. Armed with this information, they submitted a transfer request to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York to move funds from Bangladesh Bank to two offshore accounts, one in Sri Lanka and the other in the Philippines. Before anyone could react, they successfully stole $81 million. Now you might be wondering, how were they caught? Well, it wasn't a high-tech countermeasure that foiled the attack. No, it was a simple typo. You see, some of the transfers were addressed to Shalika Foundation. Can you see what's wrong with this name? This little mistake was spotted by employees at the Federal Reserve Bank, and they immediately consulted it with Bangladesh. Bangladesh confirmed that the transactions were unauthorized and cancelled them, preventing further financial losses. Despite best efforts of law enforcement and cybersecurity experts, hackers responsible for the heist have remained elusive and most likely will never face any consequences. But I only covered this very briefly, so if you wanna know more details, check out episode 72 of Darknet Diaries podcast. Link in the description. On October 2nd, 2018, US CERT released an alert from Department of Homeland Security about a new cyber attack targeting financial organizations called FASTCash. According to this paper, the main victims were companies from Asia and Africa. The US government has accused state-sponsored hacking group from North Korea called Hidden Cobra. Additionally, private researchers have found similarities between FASTCash code and other malware used by North Korea. Let's see how they did it, shall we? As seen before, everything started with personalized phishing emails targeting bank employees. Again, the email dropped malware that was enumerating the infrastructure and gave hackers ability to escalate their privileges. Hackers broke into the internal system that processes and approves cash withdrawals. It's important to mention that FASTCash was only effective on older versions of AIX, therefore banks with limited resources were the target. Let's take a look at a typical cash withdrawal process. The client inserts a card and enters a PIN number, then the ATM contacts a payment switch application, PSA verifies if there is enough money in the account to withdraw, and ATM approves or denies the transaction. FASTCash intervenes in the second step and blocks the connection to PSA, returning a message to approve the transaction. Attackers gained so much privilege that they could create their own accounts using legitimate systems and, without adding any funds, withdraw unlimited amount of cash out of ATMs. FASTCash was used at least 2 times. In 2017, banks in 23 countries were robbed, and that's still less than in 2018 when hackers stole money from 30 banks at the same time. Until 2nd of October 2020, North Korea successfully stole over $2 billion. Additionally, to hide transactions, threat actors used some kind of a wiper to completely destroy bank networks. All of that definitely makes FASTCash one of the biggest threats to financial infrastructure ever seen. All of those stories made me realize that we are extremely vulnerable, and bad guys are leveraging that. We have to be aware of what's going on in the dark, and I'm not talking about tech people as you and me, I'm talking everyone. It should be a common knowledge that we are constantly under attack. It should be a common knowledge why these attacks are possible and, most importantly, how to defend against them. Spread cyber awareness and stay safe. See you soon.